We're turning up for the kingdom. Celebrate the keys to eternal life. We're turning up cause he freed us. Brought us out of darkness cause he's the light. Cause we are come for Christ, come for Christ, come for Christ. Run for Christ.
Yeah, we talk about the Savior coming in the clouds of glory. Subject of the gospel face allegory. He's the truth and indeed the light. The one whose name caused demons to take flight. I pursue him, family I'm steady chasing. Seek ye first, it ain't complicated. But we all let distractions leave our faith fractured. Forget about his sacrifice with all passion. Till he rose again with all power. Sovereign with keys to rebuke the devourer. Other gods irrelevant, believe, don't be hesitant. Cause all can be saved in Christ and
We're
keep killing.
turning up for the kingdom. Celebrate the keys to eternal life. We're turning up cause he freed us. Brought us out of darkness.
Hey guys, it's Minister Frankie with Shine His Light, and I am so excited. We are here live in Jacksonville, Florida with the one and only Harley Lamoureux. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you for asking. It's such a blessing to get to be here.
Yeah, and I had to wear my blue boots. I don't know if you can see them or not.
Yeah, I see them.
For the blues,
Yeah,
and
for the
fur.
blues.
We dressed up like the blues. Harley is in the Blues Hall of Fame. He is one of the world's best harmonica players, and he has played with some of the best bands out there. And so we're going to talk about that. But above all of that, and more importantly, he has a prison mission, and so he and his wife go to prisons and they minister to folks who are in the prison. And like us, and I know I've spoken about this, and one of the, this verse is very close to my heart, 1 Peter 4:10. Each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace in its various forms. So guys, we weren't just given these gifts for our own benefit, to benefit us and so that we can enjoy them, or so that we can get dates, or so that we can get into parties, or so that we can be thought of to be cool. We were given these gifts to shine His light and to be His light and to use those gifts to glorify our Father in heaven. So, yes, and so tell us a little bit, tell us about some of the people that you've played with.
Well, I grew up in Southern Rock, and so I did that. So growing up, I was in various bands with that were members of like Skinner and people like that. And then I was blessed to get to be a guest with Charlie Daniels all over the country, and we talked about that, and I just asked really to just play Amazing Grace with him, and that's how it started, but he's a really super Christian and a great guy, and of course not only a patriot, but I mean he really, really loves God and loves Jesus, and so that's been a special, special time for me in being able to do that. And of course in Nashville I recorded a lot with a lot of different artists, a lot of them on the Opry. And in Atlanta, I actually recorded in Studio One there in Doraville.
Wow.
And that was with 38 Special. And so that's what I do. I get to do recordings, as well as the biggest thing is I get to take my harmonicas in the prisons. And I actually get to play with the praise bands there. And some of them are really incredible players. And what's nice is when they are really good, we get to do some jamming on top of just playing. But I'll do whatever praise song. They just make sure I know what key, I know which harmonica to use, and so it works really great. And then I have some tracks, whether I use the CD tracks or I have a new pedal now that has all the music on it, and I can just hit the button and it starts. So this last weekend I was in 4 of the prisons, and they were all in Jackson area, Jackson County. And so the songs I got to do, especially with the pedal, I got to do Stormy Monday and Soul Shine. And then on the others, a lot of times I'll get to do Melissa and One Way Out. And it was just a special time. In the very beginning, see, here in Jacksonville is where the Allman Brothers started.
Yeah,
Not
that's
just
true.
Leonard
You
Skinner.
guys know the Allman Brothers,
And
right?
and so they were two
Yeah.
different bands that formed. One was called the Second Coming, the other was the Almond Joys. And so when they combined, they played around here in Jacksonville a lot of times free. And one of the places that they played was at what we called Forest Inn, and it was a private club. And so I hadn't really been playing real long then, but I was honored. I got to go up and play on Stormy Monday with them, and so like I said, I've gotten to do a lot of things with a lot of different people in different places, and the Blues Hall of Fame, that just was nothing you can plan. And I actually was in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I was actually in my room, and I got called down to the lobby, and there was a film crew, and so that's when it was presented. And so it's been great to have that. The many people that I've gotten to play with, a lot of people I've gotten to witness with. One of the exciting things I get to do this year coming up is Mardi Gras. And we're going to stroll through and play and witness. And these are some guys I got to do this with out in Sturgis. And it was just great. We do in Sturgis each year, we have our own stage. And it's called Music for Your Soul. And all the people that come and play in that are in the Blues Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So it's real neat. All the way they come from LA and Chicago, and of course I'm out of Jacksonville. And so it's just exciting to get to do that, knowing that we're able to share the gospel. And we still do some songs that aren't necessarily gospel songs, but also one of my friends, Mark Mason, he said, you know, music can't be Christian. Only souls, only people can actually be Christian. And it's true. I know there's a lot of music that we do, and you hear I do a lot of instrumental stuff, but you know, it's really about the creation of music. You know, and in Atlanta, it's interesting. I just remember, but I was at the Striper concert there at the Omni, and the group that opened was James Dio, which is totally satanic. But then the main act Striper, when they got on, man, they tore it up, and on top of that, they had an altar call at the end of it, and all the youth ministers from the area came so they could follow up with the new believers and stuff. And so it's just neat how God has used every genre of music. I was fortunate to be in Nashville when DC Talk started, you know, and so Dan Brock and Eddie Garmo were old friends, and so, you know, to watch that come about was something everybody kind of, you know, well, I don't know about this, you know, but how tremendous. And of course Toby Mac now just does so many incredible songs.
Look at that. Look
And
at that,
so,
what God does when you use your gifts for Him. And, you know, and we just look at those guys, and I'm so grateful, you know, and so grateful to people like you. I know we all are, for using those gifts and for making that music that is for Him.
Yes.
And just amazing. Yeah, so you've just been all around with all kind of players then. And so who would you say is Charlie Daniels? You think that's your favorite? Is that home for you? Or is
That's more home for me, but like I said, I've done all the Southern rock stuff, and when getting back, moving to Jacksonville, I did that about 7 years ago, and so I got to hook up with Dave Lubeck from Molly Hatchet and some of the other players that I played with in the late 60s.
Wow.
You know, and so it's just exciting to see how things move and develop. So I've gotten to do a lot of playing with my friends this area. I used to come down from Nashville and I would do stuff with them just to have fun and stuff. And but music is that. It's about enjoying it. It's the same way about being, you know, Christian. We enjoy it. I'm not some sad, long drawn out, you know, and I kid and people go like, well, I don't know, and I said, well, move a little bit away if the lightning hits. You won't get caught in it, you know. But God is just incredible. I mean, He is out there doing it, and He's opening doors. And in the prisons, like this year already, I've gotten to be in 26 different prisons.
It's amazing,
You
yeah.
know.
And then I was looking at this, and I don't know if you guys can see the pictures or not, but this is Harley's wife, Carolyn, and she's with him on the mission. How brilliant it is for God to send a helpmate and to send someone with you that can walk that walk with you. It is just so important and such a blessing, I
It
know.
is.
And
It
she
is.
has to have just an amazing heart to serve by you in those prisons. And then they call you Coconut Harley, I think.
Yes.
And now, so tell me about that. What's that about?
Well, it was real innocent, although there's a lot of crazy stories out there. But I was at Miami Pop Festival in 1968, and that was at Hialeah, the horse racetrack.
Yeah.
And so it was all lined going into it with the coconut palms. And I looked down and I saw one of them that had fallen out of the tree, and I just said, you know, it's really going to be happening on the other side of the fence, because that's where all the music is going
Yeah.
to be. And so I picked it up. And then that was 3 days of that, and then I just said, you know, I'm going other places that are nice, you know, and will be happening. And so I have had it all around the world. It's actually on my mantle there at home right now, but I've had it over 50 years. And
The same
I was
coconut?
getting to show stuff, show people, because I mean, I have Ronnie Van Zant holding it, Gary Rosden from Skinner, I've got Alan, all the guys, and then recently was backstage with them, and Dale and Gary held it, and so Johnny again, and Ricky Medlock. So, I mean, I really did grow up with all these people, and Ronnie Van Zant was a friend of mine, and Gene Odom, his stage man or whatever status they gave him there, he took care of me, and I was blessed. I got to be at the very last show in Greenville, South Carolina, when Skinner, you know, did the very last show before the crash.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, you know, it's
Oh,
just been an
goodness.
incredible time to start out, you know, doing Allman Brothers, and then having friends like Leonard Skinner and the other groups. We had the Second Coming was the one that went to become part of the Allman Brothers, but then there was another band called the King James Version. It's so interesting that these are biblical names, but they were not biblical
Yeah.
bands, you know, the Second Coming and King James Version. And so anyway, they became Grinder Switch, and Larry Howard, that did a lot of Christian blues, was in that group, and I knew Drew and them, but I got to do about 3 years in the prisons with Larry before he passed away. And so it's just been really a super time, and we just, God does it.
Hi, we're Rich and Lee Norton with the Hands and Feet Foundation. Hands and Feet is a wonderful ministry where we serve on the west side of Jacksonville, Florida.
And this is a ministry that's near and dear to our heart. There's so many wonderful things that happen out there. Come to 7478 103rd Street, Jacksonville, Florida, or you can go to handsandfeetfoundation.org, or if you want to go to Facebook, Hands and Feet West Side. Come and see what we do. Check us out. If you'd like to give, or if you'd like to donate your time, whatever it may be. I mean, we're just loving this ministry. Love for you to be part of it as well.
Hey guys, we're back, and I have some more amazing stuff to talk about with Harley. And so we're going to dig a little deeper into what inspired you. When did you start playing? How old were you? You know, tell us about
I
the
actually
stories.
was 16 years old, and it's interesting because I was liking Bob Dylan and stuff, and that
Yeah.
was not like, he's not really known as a harmonica player.
Yeah.
And so, but once I got it and started, you know, playing it and getting into the blues and stuff, then it was a whole different thing. You know, you had Paul Butterfield and other people, and so,
So
I
how
really,
old were you?
Well, I started at 16.
Wow.
You know, and so I just picked one up. I had not really necessarily planned it, and started playing it. And next thing you know, people going like, "That's sounding good." And so then I had opportunity to go and play, and even make music and make livings, and and travel and stuff. So it's just been a super way that God's been able to bless me. But like I said, you can look back and I can look back on time that God was like really rooting for me and doing things for me, and I was acting like I hated him, But see, when I'm sharing in the prisons and stuff, especially, see, I was born in the projects out here in Brentwood, here in Jacksonville. And one other thing, my father was 74 years old when I was born. And he was 60 and my mom was 26 when they married, and I'm the youngest of 6 children. And so that's another thing I can relate with, because a lot of the people, even in prison, had grown up in projects and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, but anyway, my mom was Baptist and made sure that we went to church. And so, I mean, I grew up and I had that joy, and around 6 years old, I looked back and it was, Jesus loves me, this I know. And then at the age of 8, I did accept him as my Lord and Savior, and didn't want to go. I was sitting in that seat and saying no. But then I found myself up front, and they said I ran. And so, anyway, and from that particular time, I really got into the Word, and one thing that in my heart I always wanted to be was a missionary.
Yeah.
And so that was my goals, just to be able to go around and talk to people about Jesus and stuff. And then it was a event in the church, but not necessarily. Satan just has his ways to trick you into this and that. And so something happened, and I just said, well, I don't want nothing to do with religion, and I don't believe any of us do.
Yeah.
We want that relationship, and that's what it's about. And so that's what I worked on, having that relationship. And then when I walked away from that, see, I had already filled that hole.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden I'm, trying to fill it, and I actually got involved in the drug culture because they seem to be, peace and love and sharing and caring, and I'm going like, well, I can do that. I've always loved people. And so anyway, that took me into the drugs, and then I was selling drugs too and stuff, and eventually it ended up that, of course, I say all good things have to come to an end, but I got arrested, and because I had become pretty notorious in the drug scene, my bond was $65,000.
Yeah, you told me a story
Yeah.
and all your
And
who all got together.
Well, and I've got the poster. I'll have to send it to you or bring it another time, whatever. But the groups that played to get me my bond money, get me out of jail, Sweet Rooster actually became 38 Special, and the King James version became Grinder Switch, and then Leonard Skinnerd. And in fact, they were doing a Southern rock documentary right at that time, and Gary says, we just did a concert to get Coconut out of jail. See, and so I'm really known more in the industry. It just depends on what time I was playing and what time I was doing, but mostly as Coconut Harley, especially in the Southern rock. But I don't think Charlie Daniels ever knew about that so much, But that's how I got well known, and then I've gotten to do a lot more of Southern rock since that time. One of the great things in Nashville was that I worked with all the songwriters, and so I got to play on their demos and sometimes on their albums. But it's incredible how much God is in all that. Yeah. Even in the country music. I mean, it used to be you had to have a gospel song out at the same time, so but I've gotten to see some incredible things happen. Chris Christopherson wrote that Why Me Lord, and one of my favorite times to look back on, Conway Twitty did it at the end of his show, blackened the stage and had a spotlight hit him, and he's on his knees. And he did Why Me Lord, and you just knew people were just packing the church after that. So it was just so neat.
You can use people like that, and you allow him. And so that is a funny story.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
were used after that.
Yes,
Mightily so.
And so in the prisons, of course, the main thing I want to do is share the hope.
Yeah.
That they understand it's really not over.
Yeah.
But also stress the fact that they need Jesus more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't get it while you're in, it's going to be a lot harder when you're busy, when you're back out.
That's true.
But a lot of inmates will just say they had to get locked up to get set free, and that's the most common thing that I hear in there. But God's done so many things for me, just the Blues Hall of Fame and getting to play with all the people that I got to, but I actually have a full pardon. See, and I applied for it, and they told me I could get it if I applied for it, and I didn't even hire an attorney or anything. And about 3 or 4 times it went before the committee and stuff, but I have that. So now, I mean, they say, well, you know, people ask me, have you ever been convicted of a felony? The answer is no. See,
Ain't that amazing?
it doesn't matter about the county jail and about Lake Butler Medical Reception Center or Appalachian Correctional Institute where I did my time. None of that matters. And one thing, I had never, ever, ever was going to go back to prison.
Yeah.
You know, I decided that, including even to minister. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
and
What
and-
changed that then?
Well, because I wanted to be a missionary, I had opportunity to go to missions conference, and while that missionary was speaking, the Spirit fell on me and said, "Welcome home." See, even though I'd walked away, you know, when Jesus had you, He has you. You know, a lot of people don't understand.
They don't.
You know, I tell people, say you didn't do
Yes.
nothing to get it, you can't do nothing to get rid of it.
No.
Same way God's gonna love you, and you can't do nothing about it. You know.
No.
And so, but anyway, as I was gonna get to go to Liberia for a missions conference, you know, for a missions trip at short term, and I didn't have a visa. And the reason I didn't have the visa is because I had a felony conviction.
Yeah.
So that's that country saying you can come in. Somebody's supposed to have taken care of that. So I get back to church that night. It happened to be a Wednesday night, and of course everybody's shocked. But a dear lady in the church came up to me and asked me if I'd go see her neighbor's son in prison. Well, I'm not going back to prison. So
Not
I
even to
just
visit.
told her,
And look what God does.
I'll pray about it. That'll get her off my back, you know. And then she came at me again, and I said, I'll call the chaplain. If he'll let me, I'll go see him. So, I mean, I called the chaplain. I just told him my name, that I've been in prison, that I go to church. And this lady in the church asked me to go see her neighbor's son, and I don't even know him. And what happened next just shocked me. The chaplain said, well, can you be here at 1?
Because that never happens.
Oh,
You can't-
no.
try
I've
to
talked to
get
many
in.
chaplains. They
Oh.
said, you've never gotten here.
No.
You know. And so I went. And the first time that door clanged, immediately I thought, well, they got me back. And all of us, you know, feel that if you've ever been incarcerated, that they're out to get you back. And then the other thing I had was a man's word that they were going to let me out. And I've been lied to.
Yes.
So these were the things going in. And like I said, when I did get in there and start sharing, I didn't know what to say. So I just opened it up and said, you know, I'm Harley Lamoureux. I was born in the projects in Brentwood. My father was 74 years old. And then words started coming out that I had never even thought, much less, but, you know, talked about. And, you know, how Jesus really did the time for us, for eternity, you know, and all that. But then the Spirit spoke again, and that's what really changed my life, because what the Spirit said was, this is your mission field. And so after that, like I tell people, I mean, it's not like I really have a choice, you know, because, you know, I have surrendered to that, but God does take those things and He uses them. But when I get in front of the inmates and I'm sharing, they know I've been on both sides of this, see. And so it's so important, and I can share that hope and that there is a future. I always remind them that because, you know, every time you look out your window, you see that fence. And I says, just, you need to lock it in. You are looking at your past. See, there's nobody in here in the room right now that's the same as they were when they walked in.
That's right.
And they agree, you know. And so anyway, I get to share that and my music, and then getting to testify and sharing the hope and the future of it. And especially when I start sharing about the pardon, see, well, that means so much more to me, because God says, I pardon your sin. See, that means they don't exist. And the two enemies we have, one, of course, is Satan, but the other is ourself, because every day we remind ourselves, oh, only if, or whatever, you know. And so anyway, but one of the neat things, God keeps giving you things, you know, to say. And also, when I'm getting ready at the very end, I tell them, I said, well, when I leave, my friends ask me where I'm going. And so I tell them, I said, I'm going to visit my friends in a gated community.
Love that.
And so,
Yes.
yeah.
And so we, this is amazing. We could just sit and talk all day, but we are getting ready to wrap up. And so we got to hear you play a little bit. I don't know, how do you choose which one you're going to play?
Well, when they tell me
Like
what
guns
key, I
blazing.
have actually 12 of them, so for each note on the piano. So, but anyway. Thank you.
So I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. It's
Oh.
just a pleasure. I could just talk all day. I'm so proud of you. Keep saving souls. Keep going out there, and I look forward to going to the prisons with you someday.
All right.
And I'll have to go out there. Everyone, you know what to do. Go out and shine. We love you.
We're turning up for the kingdom. Celebrate the keys to eternal life. We're turning up 'cause he freed us. Brought us out of darkness 'cause he's the light. 'Cause we are come for Christ, come for Christ, come for Christ. Run for Christ.
Yeah, we talk about the Savior coming in the clouds of glory, subject of the gospel, face allegory. He's the truth and indeed the light, the one whose name caused demons to take flight. I pursue him, family I'm steady chasing. Seek ye first, it ain't complicated, but we all let distractions leave our faith fractured. Forget about his sacrifice with all passion. Till he rose again with all power, sovereign with keys to rebuke the devourer. Other gods irrelevant, believe, don't be hesitant, 'cause all can be saved in Christ. And
We're
keep killing.
turning up for the kingdom.